I was halfway down the staircase when I heard Dominic's voice coming from the hallway. My hand froze on the mahogany railing. He was on the phone, his back turned to me, completely unaware I was there. At first, I thought nothing of it. Monday dinners at my house had become routine over the past 4 years. Dominic would arrive early, make himself comfortable, chat on the phone while I finished cooking. Normal son-in-law behavior. Then I heard the words that stopped my heart. "The poison is undetectable. In 3 days she'll be done." My breath caught in my throat. I pressed myself against the wall, every muscle in my body rigid. He kept talking, his voice low and cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Yeah, I've been adding it to her morning smoothies. She has no idea. The symptoms look like the flu, maybe food poisoning. By the time anyone figures it out, if they ever do, it'll be too late." Helena. He was talking about Helena, my daughter, my only child. "The life insurance pays out $2 million. I can cover the gambling debts and still have plenty left over. Then the old bitch is next." The old bitch, that would be me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run down those stairs and tear him apart with my bare hands. But 32 years in the financial consulting business had taught me something invaluable. Never show your cards when you're holding a winning hand. And right now, knowledge was my ace. I forced myself to breathe slowly through my nose, in, out, in, out. My heart was hammering so hard I thought he might hear it. I took one careful step backward, then another. The third step creaked slightly, and I froze, but Dominic just laughed into the phone. "Nah, Vivienne suspects nothing. She's been too busy with her precious consulting firm to notice her daughter's been sick for weeks. Besides, she loves me. Dumb bitch actually thinks of me as the son she never had." The rage that flooded through me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Not when Patrick died 8 years ago. Not when I lost my first major client. This was different. This was the primal fury of a mother who just discovered someone was trying to murder her child. I made it back to the top of the stairs and into my bedroom. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely close the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and pressed my palms against my thighs, trying to steady myself. Think, Vivienne. Think. Helena had been sick. For weeks now, maybe longer. She'd mentioned it casually over the phone last month. Headaches, nausea, fatigue. I'd suggested she see a doctor. She'd laughed it off, said it was just stress from the new project she was working on. Dominic had been so concerned, so attentive. Always making her smoothies, she'd said, trying to help her feel better. The smoothies. I grabbed my phone and pulled up my daughter's number, then stopped. If I called her now, if I told her what I'd heard, she'd confront him. She'd warn him. Helena had always been trusting, especially with the people she loved. She'd married Dominic after knowing him for only 6 months. When I'd expressed concern about the rushed engagement, she'd accused me of being controlling, of never giving him a chance. We'd barely spoken for a month after that conversation. No, I couldn't call her. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed evidence so damning that even my naive, love-blind daughter couldn't deny it. I heard Dominic's footsteps on the stairs. He was coming down now, finished with his phone call. I waited another minute, then walked out of my bedroom with what I hoped was a normal expression on my face. My legs felt like water, but I kept moving. When I reached the kitchen, Dominic was already there, leaning against the counter with that easy smile he always wore. Handsome, charming Dominic with his designer suits and perfect teeth. The man I'd written a check for $200,000 to help start his commercial real estate business. The man I'd given $150,000 for the down payment on the house he shared with my daughter. "Hey, Vivienne," he said, that smile never wavering. "Something smells amazing." I looked at him and felt nothing but ice. "Just the lasagna," I said. "Should be ready in about 20 minutes. "Great. I'm starving." He pulled out his phone and started scrolling. So casual, so normal. I turned away and opened the refrigerator, pretending to check on the salad I'd prepared earlier. My mind was racing. 3 days, he'd said. Helena had 3 days before the poison killed her. That meant I had less than 72 hours to save my daughter's life and destroy the man who'd tried to take it. I closed the refrigerator and reached for my wine glass, taking a small sip to steady myself. Dominic was still on his phone, oblivious. "How's Helena feeling?" I asked, keeping my voice light. He looked up, and for just a second I saw something flicker across his face. Calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by that concerned expression he wore so well. "Not great, actually. She's been pretty sick the last few weeks. I keep telling her to see a doctor, but you know how stubborn she is." "Just like her father," I said, and watched his jaw tighten slightly. Dominic had never liked being reminded of Patrick. My late husband had been everything Dominic wasn't. Genuinely kind, successful through hard work rather than manipulation, beloved by everyone who knew him. "Yeah," Dominic said shortly. I pulled the lasagna from the oven and set it on the counter to cool. My hands were steady now. The initial shock had passed, replaced by something colder and more focused. I'd built a $12 million consulting firm from nothing. I'd survived the death of my husband and raised a daughter alone. I'd faced down aggressive CEOs, hostile board members, and competitors who wanted to see me fail. Dominic Brennan didn't know who he was dealing with. "I need to grab something from the garage," I said. "Can you watch the lasagna for a minute?" "Sure thing." I walked through the mudroom into the garage, then pulled out my phone and made a call. It was answered on the second ring. Marcus Investigations. "Marcus, it's Vivian Ashford. I need you to do something for me immediately, and I need absolute discretion." "Of course. What do you need?" I gave him Helena's address and explained the situation as quickly and quietly as I could. My daughter was being poisoned. I needed samples of anything she'd been consuming regularly. I needed her medical records pulled. I needed a toxicology screen run on whatever hair or blood samples could be obtained. And I needed all of this done within 24 hours. "Jesus, Vivian. Should we call the police?" "Not yet. I need proof first. Solid, undeniable proof. Can you do this?" "I'll have my best people on it tonight. We'll get you what you need." "Thank you." I hung up and took a moment to compose myself. Then I returned to the kitchen, where Dominic was now setting the table like the helpful son-in-law he pretended to be. We ate dinner together. I asked him about work. He asked about my business. We talked about the weather, about the upcoming holidays, about whether Helena would host Thanksgiving this year or if I would. Normal conversation. Pleasant conversation. All while, I imagined different ways to destroy him. After dinner, Dominic helped me clean up. He always did. Such a considerate man, everyone thought. So helpful, so devoted to his wife. I handed him a plate to dry and watched his hands. Those hands had been putting poison in my daughter's food. "You know," I said carefully, "I was thinking about updating Helena's trust fund. She'll be 33 next month. I want to make sure she's well taken care of." Dominic's eyes lit up. Of course they did. "That's generous of you. I know Helena really appreciates everything you do for her." "Does she?" I kept my tone neutral. "I sometimes wonder if she thinks I'm too involved. You know how she can be." No, Dominic said quickly. "She knows you just want what's best for her." "What's best for her?" This from the man planning to murder her for insurance money. "I'm glad to hear that," I said, "because I've been thinking about other things too. Patrick's life insurance policy that I never touched. It's been sitting in investments for 8 years now, close to $5 million with the returns." I watched his face carefully. His pupils dilated slightly. His breathing changed. That's incredible," he said. "I'm thinking of setting up a trust for Helena's children. When she has them, of course." I paused. "Unless something were to happen to her, then I suppose it would just go to her spouse." Nothing's going to happen to Helena, Dominic said, but his voice was tight. Of course not, I agreed. She's young and healthy. Well, aside from this recent sickness. You don't think it's anything serious, do you? No, just a bug. She'll be fine. I hope so. I dried my hands on a towel. Because if anything ever happened to my daughter, I honestly don't know what I'd do. She's all I have left. Dominic left shortly after that, kissing my cheek and thanking me for dinner like he always did. I stood in my doorway and watched him drive away in the BMW I'd helped him buy. The moment his taillights disappeared, I was on the phone again. This time I called my lawyer. Robert, it's Vivian. I need you to pull Helena's life insurance policy information immediately. Every detail. Beneficiaries, amounts, everything. At this hour? Now, Robert, this is an emergency. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Robert's voice was grim. The policy was taken out 18 months ago. $2 million. Primary beneficiary is Dominic Brennan. You're listed as secondary, but only if Helena dies without a surviving spouse. Who initiated the policy? Dominic. Helena signed off on it, but he's the one who set it up and pays the premiums. I thanked him and hung up. Then I walked to my home office and unlocked the safe where I kept important documents. Inside was a letter Patrick had written before he died. Not to me, to Helena. He'd asked me to give it to her if she ever needs guidance about relationships. I'd never opened it, but I opened it now. My darling Helena, the letter began. If your mother is giving you this, it means you're facing a difficult decision about someone in your life. I want you to remember something. Your instincts are good. Your judgment is sound. But love can make us blind to red flags we'd normally see clearly. Trust your mother's instincts, too. She knows people. She reads them like I could never do. If she's worried about someone you love, there's probably a reason. Don't dismiss her concerns as interference or control. She's trying to protect you the only way she knows how. I love you forever, sweetheart. Make choices that keep you safe. Dad. Tears blurred my vision. Patrick had known. Somehow, he'd known that one day our daughter might need this reminder. I locked the letter back in the safe. Tomorrow, I'd have proof. Tomorrow, Marcus would give me everything I needed to expose Dominic, and then I'd save my daughter's life, even if she hated me for it. But tonight, I had one more thing to do. I went back down to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Inside, exactly where I'd placed them earlier, were the documents I'd printed that afternoon. Bank statements, credit reports, everything my private investigator had found over the past 3 weeks when I'd first started to suspect something was wrong with Dominic. $180,000 in gambling debts. Money owed to some very dangerous people in Atlantic City. Multiple maxed-out credit cards, bank accounts in the red, all hidden from Helena, who thought her husband was doing well in commercial real estate. I'd put these documents in the refrigerator right after Dominic's phone call while he was still upstairs. It was a test, a trap, really. If he opened the fridge before leaving, he'd see them. If he panicked, I'd know for certain he was guilty of more than just poisoning my daughter. He'd be guilty of planning my death too. But he hadn't opened the refrigerator. He'd been too confident, too comfortable. He thought he had 3 more days to kill Helena and then work on getting rid of me. He was wrong. I pulled out the documents and spread them across my kitchen table. Then I added my notes from tonight. Dominic's phone conversation, transcribed as accurately as I could remember. The names of the people he'd mentioned. The timeline he'd laid out. By tomorrow night, I'd have toxicology reports. I'd have evidence of poison. I'd have everything I needed to put Dominic Brennan in prison for the rest of his miserable life. But first, I had to save Helena. I picked up my phone one more time and called my daughter. "Mom?" She sounded terrible, weak and congested. "Sweetheart, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I need you to come stay with me tonight." "What? Mom, I'm sick. I can't just—" "Helena, please. Just for tonight. I'll come get you. I'll take care of you. Dominic can take care of me. He's been amazing, honestly. He makes me smoothies every morning and, don't drink the smoothies. The words came out sharper than I intended. Silence on the other end. Mom, what are you talking about? I closed my eyes. This was the moment. I could tell her everything right now. But if I did, if I told her what I'd heard, she'd defend him. She'd make excuses. She'd choose him over me, the way she'd been choosing him over me for 4 years. I miss you, I said instead. And you sound so sick. Let me take care of you, just one night. I can't, Mom. Dominic would worry. And honestly, I'm too tired to move. My chest tightened. Okay. Okay, sweetheart. Feel better. Love you, Mom. I love you too, more than you'll ever know. I hung up and stared at the phone in my hand. 24 hours. That's all I had to wait. Marcus would have the evidence tomorrow. And then, whether Helena wanted to hear it or not, I'd make her listen. I looked at the documents spread across my table one more time. Then I gathered them up and put them back in the refrigerator, not on a shelf, in the crisper drawer hidden under vegetables. Tomorrow, when Dominic came for our usual Monday dinner, I'd show him exactly what I'd found. I'd lay it all out, and I'd watch his perfect mask finally crack. Because the one thing Dominic Brennan didn't understand about me was this. I might have let him into my family. I might have funded his fake business and smiled at his fake charm. But I hadn't survived 32 years in a ruthless industry by being naive. I knew how to spot a predator. And I'd been watching him all along. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Patrick's old leather chair in my office, staring at financial reports I couldn't focus on, waiting for dawn. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Dominic's voice again. In 3 days, she'll be done. The truth was, I'd known something was wrong with Dominic from the very beginning. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. It was 4 years ago when Helena first brought him home. She'd been 28, still grieving Patrick in ways she wouldn't acknowledge. My husband had died so suddenly. One moment, he was laughing at the dinner table, telling stories about his latest case. The next, he was clutching his chest, his face going gray. The heart attack took him before the ambulance even arrived. Helena had fallen apart. She'd been Daddy's girl since birth. They had the same sense of humor, the same easy warmth with people. When he died, something in her shut down. She threw herself into her interior design work, took on too many projects, stopped calling me back. I watched my daughter disappear into her grief and didn't know how to reach her. Then, 2 years after Patrick's death, she called me bubbling with excitement. She'd met someone. His name was Dominic Brennan. He was 31, worked in commercial real estate, and Helena couldn't stop talking about him. Mom, he's amazing. He's so thoughtful and caring. He reminds me of Dad in some ways. That should have been my first warning. No one reminded me of Patrick. Patrick had been genuinely kind, the sort of man who remembered the names of waitstaff and tipped generously, even when service was poor. Patrick had built his law practice on integrity, turning down lucrative cases if they required him to compromise his ethics. When I met Dominic that first time, I saw none of that. Oh, he was charming enough, tall, handsome, impeccably dressed. He brought me flowers and complimented my home. He asked intelligent questions about my consulting business and seemed genuinely interested in my answers. He held Helena's hand and looked at her like she was the only person in the room. But his eyes never matched his smile. I'm good at reading people. You have to be in my line of work. I've sat across from CEOs who lied about their company's financial health. I've negotiated with executives who smiled while planning to undercut me. I've learned to watch for the small tells, the micro expressions that flash across a face before the mask settles back into place. Dominic had those tells. When Helena excused herself to use the bathroom, his whole demeanor changed. The warmth drained from his face. He looked around my home with an appraising expression, like he was calculating property values. When Helena came back, the warmth returned instantly. My mother saw it too. Margaret came over for dinner that night, and after Dominic and Helena left, she sat me down at the kitchen table. "Essa homem tem olhos de cobra," she said in Portuguese. "That man has snake eyes." "My, that's harsh. Helena seems happy." "Snakes are patient," my mother said. "They wait for the right moment to strike. You watch him, Vivian. You watch him close." But I didn't watch him closely enough. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was projecting my grief over Patrick onto Helena's new relationship. I wanted my daughter to be happy again. I wanted to see her smile the way she smiled when she talked about Dominic. So when they got engaged after only 6 months, I swallowed my concerns and threw them an engagement party. I wrote a check for the venue, the flowers, the catering. I gave a toast about how happy I was to welcome Dominic into our family, and I ignored the sick feeling in my stomach every time I saw them together. The wedding was beautiful. Helena wore my mother's lace veil, the same one I'd worn when I married Patrick. She looked radiant walking down the aisle. Dominic cried during his vows, which everyone found touching. I watched him cry and wondered if it was real. After the wedding, things moved quickly. Dominic's commercial real estate business was struggling, he said. The market was tough. He just needed a little capital to get things moving. Could I help? I wrote him a check for $200,000. Helena was my daughter, and her husband's success was her success. That's what I told myself. That's what he told me, too. "I'll pay you back within 2 years," Dominic promised. "With interest. You're investing in our future, Vivian." That was 4 years ago. I never saw a penny back. Then they needed a house. They'd been renting, but Dominic said it was time to build equity. The housing market in Connecticut was competitive. They'd found the perfect place, but they needed help with the down payment. I wrote another check, $150,000. Helena cried and hugged me. "Mom, thank you. You're so generous. We'll pay you back, I promise." Dominic hugged me too. Over Helena's shoulder, I saw his face. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. I started to notice other things after that. How Dominic always steered conversations toward my finances. How he'd casually ask about my investment portfolio or what I planned to do with Patrick's life insurance money. How he'd mention that Helena should be included more in my financial planning. "After all," he'd say with that smile, "you're not getting any younger. It's important to make sure Helena's taken care of." I was 53 at the time, hardly on death's door, but the comments continued. And slowly, subtly, Dominic began to drive a wedge between me and my daughter. It started with small things. If I called Helena and she didn't answer, Dominic would later mention that she'd been busy with a project and didn't have time for long conversations. If I suggested lunch, he'd remind her about some prior commitment they'd made. If I expressed concern about anything, Dominic would comfort Helena about her overbearing mother. I didn't realize what was happening at first. I just knew that my relationship with Helena was deteriorating. She called less. She visited even less. When we did see each other, she seemed distant, defensive. "You don't trust my judgment," she accused me once, after I'd made some innocuous comment about financial planning. "You think I'm still a child who can't make her own decisions." "That's not true, Helena. I just want to make sure you're protected." Protected from what? From my own husband? God, Mom, do you hear yourself? I heard myself. And I heard Dominic's words coming out of my daughter's mouth. That's when I hired Marcus. 3 weeks ago, after Helena mentioned offhandedly that Dominic had suggested increasing her life insurance. "It's just smart planning," she'd said. "We're young and healthy, so the premiums are cheap. And if anything ever happened to one of us, the other would be taken care of. $2 million for a 32-year-old woman with no children and no major assets." It wasn't smart planning. It was suspicious. Marcus started digging. Within a week, he'd found the gambling debts. Dominic had been placing bets with illegal bookmakers in Atlantic City. High-stakes games he couldn't afford. He'd lost over and over, and now he owed $180,000 to people who didn't accept payment plans. These aren't the kind of guys who sue you in civil court, Marcus had told me. These are the kind of guys who break kneecaps. I'd asked Marcus to keep digging, find out everything about Dominic Brennan, where his money was really going, what his business was actually worth, everything. The reports came back damning. Dominic's commercial real estate business was a shell. He'd made maybe 3 small deals in 4 years, all of them barely breaking even. The $200,000 I'd given him? Gone, gambled away, or spent on maintaining his expensive lifestyle. The BMW he drove, the designer suits he wore, the fancy restaurants where he took clients who didn't exist. It was all a performance, and Helena was funding it with my money. But even knowing all of this, even with proof of his financial recklessness and lies, I'd held back. I didn't want to be the villain in my daughter's story. I didn't want her to choose between me and her husband and lose her completely. So I'd planned to gather more evidence, build an irrefutable case, present it to Helena when the time was right. Then I'd overheard that phone call, and suddenly time was the one thing I didn't have. The sun was rising now. I'd been sitting in Patrick's chair all night, lost in memories and regrets. I should have acted sooner. I should have forbidden the marriage, should have refused to fund Dominic's fake business, should have pulled Helena aside and forced her to see what I saw. But I'd been afraid of losing her, and now I might lose her anyway, in the worst possible way. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Got the samples. Lab is running the analysis now. Should have results by this afternoon. Also found something else. Dominic's phone records. You need to see these. I texted back immediately. Send them. A minute later, my email chimed. I opened the attachment and felt my blood go cold. Dominic had been calling a number in Atlantic City repeatedly over the past 3 months. Marcus had traced it. The number belonged to a known associate of organized crime, the same people Dominic owed money to. But that wasn't the worst part. There were also calls to a life insurance claims adjuster, multiple calls, starting 6 weeks ago, right around the time Helena first started getting sick. He'd been planning this for over a month, poisoning my daughter slowly, establishing a pattern of illness, making sure everything looked natural when she finally died. And then he was going to kill me too. The old bitch is next, he'd said. I forwarded everything to my lawyer with instructions to prepare a comprehensive legal packet, restraining orders, divorce papers on Helena's behalf, criminal complaints, everything we'd need the moment I had proof of the poisoning. Then I got dressed and drove to Helena's house. She lived 20 minutes away, in the upscale neighborhood I'd helped them afford. The house was beautiful, a modern colonial with a manicured lawn. I'd been so proud when they'd bought it. My daughter, establishing roots, building a life. Now all I could think about was the poison inside those walls. I parked across the street and waited. At 7:30, Dominic emerged, dressed for work in one of his expensive suits. He got into his BMW and drove away. I waited another 10 minutes to make sure he was really gone. Then I walked up to the door and used the key Helena had given me years ago for emergencies. This was an emergency. Helena was still in bed when I let myself in. I could hear her coughing from upstairs, a wet, painful sound that made my chest ache. I climbed the stairs quietly and found her curled under the blankets, her face pale and drawn. "Mom?" She struggled to sit up, confusion clouding her features. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?" "I used my key. I brought you some things." I held up the bag I'd packed, ginger tea, crackers, homemade soup. "You sounded so terrible on the phone last night. I couldn't stop worrying." Helena's expression softened slightly. "You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did. You're my daughter." I sat on the edge of her bed and pressed my hand to her forehead. She was warm, but not feverish. "How long have you been feeling like this?" "I don't know. 3 weeks? 4? It comes and goes. I'll feel better for a day or two, then it gets bad again. She coughed into her hand. Dominic thinks it might be some kind of stomach virus. Have you seen a doctor? Not yet. Dominic keeps saying I should, but I've been too busy with the Morrison project. You know how demanding Mrs. Morrison is. I knew. I also knew that Dominic didn't actually want her seeing a doctor. Not yet. Not until it was too late. Helena, I need you to listen to me. I want you to come stay with me for a few days. Let me take care of you. Mom, I can't just leave. Dominic will understand. You're sick. You need rest and care. Helena's face tightened. Dominic has been taking care of me. He makes me breakfast every morning, these special smoothies with protein and vitamins. He's been amazing. The smoothies, of course. That's how he was doing it. Where does he make them? I kept my voice casual. In the kitchen. Why? Can you show me? Maybe I can make some for you while you're at my place. Helena looked at me suspiciously. Why are you being so weird about this? I'm not being weird. I'm being a mother. You're being a controlling mother. This is exactly what Dominic said you'd do. What do you mean? Helena's eyes filled with tears. He said you'd never really accept him, that you'd always find reasons to criticize him or try to come between us. And here you are, in my house uninvited, trying to take me away from my husband when I'm sick. The words hit me like a slap. This was Dominic's manipulation at work. He'd spent 4 years poisoning Helena's mind against me, preparing for this exact moment. If I pushed too hard now, she'd shut me out completely. I took a breath and softened my approach. Sweetheart, I'm not trying to come between you. I'm worried about you. You've been sick for weeks. That's not normal. It's just a virus. Then let me take you to my doctor. Dr. Chen can see you today. I already called. You called your doctor about me without asking? Helena, please. Something is wrong. I can feel it. What you feel is the need to control everything. I'm 32 years old, Mom. I don't need you managing my health care. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake her until she understood that her husband was killing her. But I couldn't. Not without proof. Okay, I said quietly. You're right. I'm sorry for overstepping. Helena's expression softened. I know you mean well, but I'm fine. Really. Will you at least promise me something? If you're not feeling better by the end of the week, you'll see a doctor? I promise. And maybe skip the smoothies for a few days, just to see if they might be upsetting your stomach? Helena frowned. Why would you say that? Sometimes when we're sick, even healthy foods can be hard to digest. Just try eating simple things: toast, crackers, soup. The smoothies are the only thing I can keep down. Of course they were, because Dominic was adding just enough poison to keep her sick, but not enough to make her immediately suspicious. The smoothies masked the taste. I stayed with Helena for another hour, watching her drift in and out of sleep. When I finally left, I took the garbage from her kitchen with me, making an excuse about helping with chores. Inside that garbage bag were 3 empty smoothie cups from the past few days. I drove straight to Marcus's office and handed him the cups. Add these to the analysis. I need to know exactly what's in them. Vivian, we already have samples from the house. The lab is running them now. I need more proof. Different samples, different dates. I need this case to be airtight. Marcus studied my face. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. How long until the lab results come back? They said late afternoon. Should have a preliminary report by 5. 5 o'clock. That meant I had 8 hours to get through. 8 hours of pretending everything was normal while my daughter was being poisoned. I went to my office, but I couldn't focus on work. My assistant, Jennifer, noticed immediately. Mrs. Ashford, are you all right? You look exhausted. I'm fine, Jennifer. Just dealing with some personal matters. Is there anything I can do to help? I almost laughed. What could anyone do? My son-in-law was a murderer. My daughter didn't believe me. and I was racing against a clock I couldn't see. Actually, yes. Can you clear my schedule for the rest of the week? Tell clients I have a family emergency. Of course. Is everything okay with Helena? Jennifer had been with me for 12 years. She'd watched Helena grow up, had been at her wedding. She knew my daughter almost as well as I did. She's sick, I said carefully. I'm worried about her. Should I send flowers, or is there something else I can do? Just keep the office running. I need to focus on Helena right now. I spent the rest of the morning making phone calls. I called my lawyer again and confirmed all the paperwork was ready. I called a friend who worked in law enforcement and asked hypothetically what evidence would be needed to prove attempted murder by poisoning. I called my mother and told her to stay ready, that I might need her help soon. "¿Qué está acontecendo?" my mother demanded. "What's happening?" "You were right about Dominic, about everything." There was a long silence. "Dígame," she said finally. "Tell me." I told her. All of it. When I finished, my mother was crying. "Mina neta," she whispered. "My granddaughter. We must save her." "I'm trying, Mai. I'm trying." At 3 o'clock, I couldn't stand waiting anymore. I drove back to Helena's house. Dominic's car was still gone. Good. This time, I didn't just collect garbage. I went through the entire kitchen systematically. I found the blender Dominic used for smoothies and took photos of the residue inside. I found protein powder in the pantry and photographed the container. I found Helena's vitamins and medications and documented everything. Then I went upstairs to Dominic's home office. The door was locked, but I knew where Helena kept the spare key. She'd shown me once, laughing about how Dominic was paranoid about his work files. "He thinks I'm going to steal his client list," she'd joked. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The office was immaculate. Expensive desk, leather chair, walls lined with fake awards and certificates. I sat at his computer, but it was password protected. I tried a few obvious combinations but got nowhere. Then I started going through his desk drawers. In the bottom drawer, hidden under some old files, I found a burner phone. My hands were shaking as I powered it on. It took a moment to boot up, and when it did, I saw dozens of text messages. All from the same number Marcus had identified, the Atlantic City connection. The messages were damning. "When's the money coming?" "You got until end of month or Tony's done being patient." $2 million should cover it plus interest. Make sure it looks natural. And Dominic's response is, "Working on it. Should be resolved by end of week. Life insurance pays out in 30 days after death. You'll get your cut. Just need a few more days. She's almost gone." That last message was from yesterday. The day before, I'd overheard his phone call. I took photos of everything. Every message, every contact, every piece of evidence on that phone. Then I put it back exactly where I'd found it and locked the office door behind me. My phone rang as I was leaving the house. Marcus. "Got the lab results. You need to come to my office right now." "Tell me." "Not over the phone. This is serious, Vivian. Get here now." I drove 20 miles over the speed limit and somehow didn't get pulled over. Marcus was waiting for me in his office, his face grim. "Arsenic," he said without preamble. "In the smoothie residue, in the hair samples we collected, in everything. Helena has been ingesting arsenic in small doses for at least 6 weeks, possibly longer." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of his desk. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough. Another week, maybe 2, and we're looking at organ failure. Liver damage, kidney damage, potentially fatal." "But she can recover if we stop it now?" "Yes. With proper treatment, she should make a full recovery." "But Vivian, we need to go to the police now. This is attempted murder." "Not yet. I need to confront him first." "That's a terrible idea. He's dangerous." "I don't care. He's coming to my house for dinner tonight, like he does every Monday. I'm going to show him what I know. I'm going to record his confession. And then I'm going to destroy him. Marcus looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. At least let me be there, as backup. No, this is between me and him. Vivian, I've already lost 8 years with my husband. I've lost 4 years watching my daughter's marriage to a monster. I'm not losing this moment. I need to look him in the eye and show him that he failed, that he underestimated me. Marcus sighed. You're as stubborn as your mother. I'll take that as a compliment. I left his office with the toxicology reports in hand, legal proof that Dominic Brennan had been poisoning my daughter. Combined with the messages on the burner phone, with the gambling debts, with the insurance policy, it was an ironclad case. But I wanted more than a legal case. I wanted a confession. I went home and prepared. I cooked the same lasagna I always made for Monday dinners. I set the table with my good china. I put wine in the refrigerator to chill, and then I waited. At 6:30, right on time, Dominic's BMW pulled into my driveway. I watched him walk up my front path, that easy smile on his face. He was whistling. Actually whistling. The man who was murdering my daughter was whistling as he came to dinner. I opened the door before he could knock. Dominic, right on time. Hey, Vivian, something smells great. Just the usual. Come in. He followed me into the kitchen. I poured him a glass of wine and handed it to him with a smile. How's Helena feeling today? I asked. Still pretty rough. But I think she's getting better. She kept down breakfast this morning. Because you didn't put poison in it, I thought. You're spacing out the doses to make it look more like a natural illness. I'm so glad to hear that. I stopped by to see her earlier. Dominic's expression flickered. You did? Yes. She looked terrible. I'm really worried about her. She'll be fine. It just takes time with these stomach bugs. I'm sure you're right. I sipped my wine. You've been so good to her. Making her those smoothies every morning. Most husbands wouldn't be so attentive. I love her. I'd do anything for her. The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. I wondered how many times he'd practiced it. That's wonderful. Helena is so lucky to have you. I paused. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about that trust fund I mentioned, for Helena's future. Dominic leaned forward slightly. Oh? Yes. I want to set up something substantial, maybe $3 million to start, with annual additions. I was thinking you and Helena could be co-trustees. His eyes gleamed. That's very generous. Well, you're family now, and family takes care of each other. I smiled. Of course, these things take time to set up properly. Lawyers, paperwork, all of that. Probably a few weeks at least. I watched his face carefully. A few weeks. That was too long. His deadline with the Atlantic City bookmakers was the end of the month. He needed that insurance money now. Weeks, he said carefully. At least, maybe a month. You know how lawyers are. Dominic's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Right, of course. But it'll be worth the wait. I want to make sure Helena is secure. I stood and walked to the refrigerator. Speaking of security, there's something I want to show you. I opened the refrigerator and pulled out the folder I'd prepared. Inside were copies of everything. The gambling debts, the bank statements, the phone records, the burner phone messages, the toxicology reports. I laid them on the kitchen table, one by one. Dominic's face went white. What is this? This is the truth, I said calmly. This is who you really are. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. You've been spying on me? You had no right? I had every right. You're poisoning my daughter. The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Dominic laughed. Actually laughed. You're insane. Helena was right about you. You're a paranoid, controlling... Sit down, Dominic. Something in my voice made him stop. I pulled out my phone and pressed play on the recording I'd made of his phone conversation yesterday. His own voice filled the kitchen. The poison is undetectable. In 3 days, she'll be done. The blood drained from his face completely. That's not... I can explain. Explain how you've been putting arsenic in my daughter's smoothies? Explain the $180,000 you owe to organized crime? Explain the $2 million life insurance policy you took out on a healthy 32-year-old woman? Dominic backed toward the door, but I stepped between him and the exit. We're not done talking, I said. Dominic's eyes darted around the kitchen, looking for an escape route. I could see his mind working, calculating his options. Fight or flight? The mask he'd worn for 4 years was completely gone now. What stood in front of me was a cornered animal. You can't prove any of this, he said, but his voice was shaking. I can prove all of it. Toxicology reports showing arsenic in Helena's system. Your burner phone with messages to Atlantic City bookmakers. Your financial records showing massive gambling debts. Insurance documents you initiated without Helena's full knowledge. I crossed my arms. I have everything, Dominic. Everything. He lunged toward the table, trying to grab the documents, but I was faster. I swept them up and held them against my chest. These are copies. The originals are with my lawyer, my private investigator, and in 3 separate safe deposit boxes. You can't make this go away. Helena won't believe you. She loves me. Helena is in the hospital right now. The lie came out smoothly. I watched it land. What? No, she's at home. You just what? Checked on her this morning before you poisoned her breakfast? She collapsed an hour after you left. I called an ambulance. They're running toxicology screens right now. I took a step toward him. It's over, Dominic. The doctors know. The police know. Everyone knows what you did. His face crumbled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He looked like a little boy caught in a lie he couldn't talk his way out of. Then I remembered what he'd done to my daughter, and the sympathy evaporated. I need to see her, he said. I need to talk to Helena. You're never seeing Helena again. She's my wife. She's your victim. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police now. You can either sit down and wait for them, or you can run. But if you run, you'll just make this worse. Dominic stood frozen for a long moment. I could see him considering it. He was younger than me, stronger. He could push past me and get to his car. But where would he go? The evidence was everywhere. Running would only prove his guilt. His shoulders sagged. He pulled the fallen chair upright and sat down heavily. I never wanted to hurt her, he said quietly. But you did hurt her. You've been killing her slowly for weeks. I didn't have a choice. You don't understand what these people are like. The guys I owe money to, they're not just going to write off $180,000. They were going to kill me. So you decided to kill Helena instead. I was going to use the insurance money to pay them back. Then everything would have been fine. Helena wouldn't have suffered. It would have looked like natural causes. She wouldn't have even known. I stared at him, stunned by the twisted logic. You actually believe that makes it better? That you were going to murder my daughter humanely? I love her. I really do. You love her money. You love the life she gave you access to. You don't love Helena. If you loved her, you never would have touched her. Dominic put his head in his hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. When we met, I thought I could make it work. I thought the real estate business would take off, and I could pay back the gambling debts on my own. But nothing worked. Every deal fell through. Every investment failed. I was drowning. So you came after my family like a shark smelling blood. He looked up at me, and I saw something unexpected in his eyes. Genuine shame. I wasn't always like this. I used to be someone better. Before my family lost everything, before I learned that money is the only thing that matters in this world. I thought if I could just get enough money, I could be that person again. Instead, you became a murderer. I became desperate. There's a difference between desperate and evil, Dominic. You crossed that line the moment you put poison in my daughter's smoothies. He was silent for a moment. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You said Helena's in the hospital. Which hospital? Why does that matter? Because I need to know if you're lying. Because if she's really in the hospital, if they're really running toxicology screens, then I have nothing left to lose. The threat in his voice was unmistakable. I realized my mistake. I'd thought cornering him would make him cooperative. Instead, I'd made him dangerous. Greenwich Medical Center, I lied smoothly. She's in the ICU. Dominic pulled out his phone and started dialing. I moved toward him, but he held up his hand. Don't. I'm calling the hospital. If Helena's really there, I'll cooperate. If you're lying. He let the sentence hang. I watched him put the phone to his ear, my heart pounding. He asked for the ICU. Asked if Helena Ashford Brennan had been admitted. I saw the moment he got his answer. His face changed. The fear and shame vanished, replaced by cold rage. She's not there, he said quietly. Helena's not in any hospital. She will be if we don't stop you right now. She's sick, Dominic. Critically sick, from what you've been doing to her. But she's at home, which means she doesn't know yet, which means I still have time. Time for what? He stood up slowly. Time to fix this. If I can get to Helena before you do, if I can explain everything, she'll understand. She loves me. She'll forgive me. You're delusional. No, I'm realistic. Helena has chosen me over you for 4 years. Every time you tried to warn her about me, she defended me. Every time you questioned our relationship, she pulled further away from you. She'll believe me over you. She always has. The words cut deep because they were true. Helena had chosen Dominic over me repeatedly. Even if I showed her the evidence, even if I played her the recording, would she believe it? Or would Dominic find a way to spin it, to make himself the victim of my paranoia? I won't let you near her, I said. How are you going to stop me? You're a 57-year-old woman. I'm 35 and 6 inches taller than you. He took a step toward me. I backed toward the counter, my hand searching behind me for something, anything I could use as a weapon. If you touch me, it's assault, another charge on top of attempted murder. Only if there's a witness, and right now it's just you and me. My fingers closed around the handle of the chef's knife I'd used to prepare dinner. I pulled it in front of me. Stay back, Dominic. He laughed. You're not going to stab me, Vivienne. You're too controlled for that. Too proper. You'll call the police and let them handle it, because that's what civilized people do. You have no idea what I'm capable of when someone threatens my daughter. We stood there, frozen in a tableau, the knife between us. His hands raised slightly, like he was calming a spooked horse. My heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Then my phone rang. The sound shattered the tension. I glanced at the screen. It was Helena. Dominic saw it too. In that split second of distraction, he moved. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it until the knife clattered to the floor. I screamed and brought my knee up hard, catching him in the stomach. He doubled over, gasping. I ran. I ran through my own house like a stranger, my feet pounding on hardwood floors I'd walked across thousands of times. Behind me, I heard Dominic recovering, heard his footsteps giving chase. My phone was still ringing in my pocket. Helena. My daughter was calling while her husband was trying to stop me from saving her life. I made it to the front door and yanked it open, but Dominic caught me from behind. His hand closed around my arm and spun me back into the foyer. I stumbled against the console table, sending a vase crashing to the floor. "You're not calling anyone," he snarled. "You're not ruining this." I twisted away from him and ran toward my office. If I could get inside, I could lock the door. I had a landline in there. I could call for help. But Dominic was faster. He caught me again, just as I reached the office door. This time, he grabbed my phone from my pocket and threw it hard against the wall. It shattered, pieces scattering across the floor. "Stop!" I screamed. "This is insane." "You made it insane. You couldn't just stay out of it. You couldn't just let Helena and me be happy." "Happy? You were killing her." "I was solving a problem. And it would have worked if you hadn't been so goddamn nosy. He still had my arm. I could feel his fingers digging into my skin, hard enough to bruise. Patrick's self-defense training came back to me. He'd insisted I take classes years ago. Just in case, he'd said. I'd thought he was being paranoid. I stomped down hard on Dominic's instep with my heel. He yelped and his grip loosened. I drove my elbow back into his ribs with all my strength. He let go completely, and I ran again. This time I headed for the kitchen. The house phone was there. The knife was there. Anything I could use to defend myself or call for help. I burst into the kitchen and grabbed the landline from its cradle on the wall. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely press 911. The phone rang once before Dominic ripped the cord from the wall. "No police," he said. His face was flushed, a vein pulsing in his forehead. "We're going to figure this out, just you and me." "There's nothing to figure out. You tried to murder Helena. It's over." "It's not over until I say it's over." He grabbed the folder of documents from the kitchen table and threw them into the sink. Before I could stop him, he turned on the gas burner and held the papers over the flame. They caught immediately, curling and blackening. "Those are copies," I shouted. "Burning them doesn't change anything." But he wasn't listening. He was destroying evidence in a panic, as if making these particular documents disappear would somehow undo everything. The smoke alarm started wailing. I used his distraction to run again. This time, I headed for the garage. My car was there. If I could get to my car, I could drive away and call for help from my cellular. But when I reached the garage, I realized my keys were still in my purse, in the kitchen, where Dominic was. I heard him coming, heavy footsteps, moving fast. I looked around desperately for another weapon. Garden tools hung on the wall. I grabbed a shovel just as Dominic appeared in the doorway. "Put that down," he said. "Stay away from me." "Vivienne, please, let's talk about this rationally." "Rationally? You just assaulted me in my own home." I'm sorry, okay?" I panicked. "But we can still fix this. We can work something out. The only thing being worked out is your prison sentence." His expression hardened. "You really think Helena is going to testify against me, even with all your evidence? She's carrying my baby, Vivienne." The world tilted. "What?" "Helena's pregnant. 6 weeks. She told me 3 days ago. She hasn't told you yet because she knows how you'll react. She knows you'll find some way to make it about how irresponsible we're being or how we can't afford a child." 6 weeks pregnant. That's why the symptoms had been so severe. The arsenic wasn't just attacking Helena's body. It was attacking the baby, too. "You've been poisoning your own child," I whispered. For the first time, real horror crossed Dominic's face. "I didn't know. When I started, I didn't know she was pregnant." "And when you found out? Did you stop?" His silence was answer enough. "You kept poisoning her, even knowing she was carrying your baby. What kind of monster are you?" "I couldn't stop. Don't you understand? If I stopped, she'd start feeling better. She'd realize the smoothies were making her sick, and I needed more time, just a few more days. A few more days, and they'd both be dead. No, I would have stopped before it got that far. I would have found another way. There is no other way. There never was. You were going to kill them both and collect the insurance money and move on to your next victim. That's not true. I love Helena. I love our baby. I made mistakes. I got in too deep and I didn't know how to get out. So you decided murder was the solution." Dominic ran his hands through his hair, leaving it standing on end. He looked wild, desperate. "What do you want from me? You want me to go to prison? Fine. I'll confess. I'll tell the police everything. Just let me see Helena first. Let me explain to her. Let me apologize. You're never seeing Helena again. She's my wife. She's your victim. And when she finds out what you did, she'll never want to see you again either. You don't know that. Helena loves me. Even after everything, she'll forgive me, because that's who she is. She's kind and forgiving, and she sees the best in people. She saw the best in you, and you tried to kill her for it. Dominic's face crumpled. He sank down against the garage wall, his head in his hands. For a moment, I almost believed his remorse was genuine. Then he looked up at me, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. "What if I left?" he said. "What if I just disappeared? You could tell Helena I abandoned her. You could say I ran off with another woman, that I was never who she thought I was. She'd be hurt, but she'd recover, and I'd be gone. You'd never have to see me again. And the men you owe money to in Atlantic City? I'll figure something out. I'll leave the country. They'll never find me." "No." "Why not?" "You'd get what you want. Helena would be safe. I'd be out of your lives forever. Because you tried to murder my daughter. Because you poisoned your own unborn child. Because you don't get to just walk away from that. Then what? You send me to prison for 25 years? 30? My life is over either way. Your life should be over. You tried to end Helena's." Dominic stood up slowly. The desperation in his eyes had turned to something darker. "If my life is over anyway, then I have nothing to lose." "Dominic, don't—" He lunged at me. I swung the shovel, but he ducked under it and tackled me to the ground. The concrete floor slammed into my back, knocking the wind out of me. The shovel skittered away. Dominic's hands found my throat. "I'm sorry," he said, and I could hear tears in his voice. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you ruin everything. I can't go to prison. I can't lose Helena." I clawed at his hands, trying to pry his fingers loose. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. This is how I die, I thought. Murdered in my own garage by my son-in-law. Then I heard the sound of the garage door opening. Car headlights flooded the space, blinding us both. Dominic's grip loosened in surprise, and I drove my fist up into his throat. He fell back, choking. I scrambled away, gasping for air. A car door slammed, footsteps running. "Mom!" Helena's voice, my daughter's voice. She appeared in the light, her face pale and terrified. Behind her was Marcus, my private investigator, and 2 police officers. "Mom, oh my God, are you okay?" Helena dropped to her knees beside me. I couldn't speak yet, could only nod and point at Dominic, who was still on the floor, clutching his throat and staring at his wife in horror. "Helena," he croaked. "Baby, I can explain." "Dominic Brennan," one of the officers said, pulling out handcuffs. "You're under arrest for attempted murder." "No, wait, Helena, please." But Helena wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me, tears streaming down her face. "Marcus called me," she said. "He told me everything. The poison, the gambling debts, all of it. I didn't believe him. I thought it was another one of your schemes to break us up. So I came here to confront you." Her voice broke. "I came here to defend him." "Helena." "Then I heard you screaming. I saw him attacking you through the garage window." She covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh God, Mom, I almost didn't call the police. I almost just came in alone. He could have killed us both." The officers were reading Dominic his rights now, cuffing his hands behind his back. He was still trying to talk to Helena, still trying to explain, but she'd turned her face away. "Ma'am, we need to get you checked out," one of the officers said to me. "You're going to have bruising on your neck." "I'm fine." "But my daughter needs to go to the hospital immediately. She's been poisoned with arsenic. She's 6 weeks pregnant." Helena's hand flew to her stomach. "How did you know?" "Dominic told me, right before he tried to kill me." The color drained from Helena's face. "The baby. Oh God, the baby." "The baby is going to be fine," I said with more confidence than I felt. "We caught it in time, but we need to get you to a hospital now." The second ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. I rode with Helena, holding her hand while the paramedics started an IV and took her vitals. She was crying silently, tears running down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry I chose him over you. I'm sorry for everything." "Shh, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I defended him. For 4 years I defended him, and he was trying to kill me the whole time. Not the whole time, just recently, when he got desperate. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. The hospital was a blur of activity. Doctors, nurses, tests, questions. They confirmed the arsenic poisoning. They said Helena would need chelation therapy to remove the heavy metal from her system. They said the baby appeared unharmed for now, but they'd need to monitor closely. Through it all, Helena held my hand. My brave, foolish, heartbroken daughter who'd loved the wrong man and nearly died for it. At midnight, they finally let her sleep. I sat in the chair beside her bed, watching her breathe, feeling every bruise on my body from my fight with Dominic. My phone, Marcus's spare phone that he'd given me, buzzed with a text. Dominic officially charged with attempted murder, assault, and fraud. Bail set at $2 million. The Atlantic City bookmakers have been notified of his arrest. He's not getting out. Good. Let him rot. Another text came through. This one from my mother. Estou rezando por vocês. I am praying for you both. Diga a Helena que eu a amo. I texted back, she knows. And thank you, mãe. I looked at Helena sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks, the IV dripping medication that would slowly heal the damage her husband had done. My daughter, my only child, still here, still breathing. I'd saved her. But I couldn't help thinking about how close I'd come to losing her. If I hadn't overheard that phone call, if I hadn't acted fast enough, if Helena hadn't arrived with the police when she did. So many ifs. But we'd survived. Both of us. And Dominic Brennan would spend the next 25 years regretting the day he'd underestimated Vivian Ashford. Helena stayed in the hospital for 5 days. The chelation therapy worked slowly, flushing the arsenic from her system while doctors monitored her constantly for any signs of organ damage. The baby's heartbeat remained strong throughout, a tiny warrior surviving what should have killed them both. I never left her side. I slept in the uncomfortable hospital chair, ate cafeteria food, and held my daughter's hand through every treatment, every test, every moment of grief when she remembered what her husband had tried to do to her. On the 3rd day, she finally asked to see the evidence. I'd been dreading this moment. I pulled out my laptop and showed her everything. The toxicology reports, the burner phone messages, the gambling debts, the insurance policy he'd taken out without her full understanding. The recording of his phone conversation where he'd planned her death. Helena listened to it all without speaking. Her face was pale, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. I really loved him, she said finally. That's the part I can't get past. I loved him so much, and none of it was real. Some of it might have been real, in the beginning. Don't make excuses for him, Mom. Please. Everyone else will do that. The lawyers, the media, everyone will say he was desperate or scared, or that the gambling addiction made him do it. But you and I both know the truth. He chose this. Every single day, he chose to poison me. She was right, and I was grateful she could see it clearly, even through the heartbreak. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, Helena continued. You tried to warn me. Gran tried to warn me. And I called you controlling. I said you were trying to run my life. You were in love. Love makes us blind to things we'd normally see. Dad wouldn't have missed it. He would have seen through Dominic immediately. I squeezed her hand. Your dad left you something. A letter. I've been holding on to it for years, waiting for the right moment. I think now is the time. I retrieved the letter from my purse and handed it to Helena. She opened it with shaking hands and read her father's words. By the time she finished, she was sobbing. He knew, she whispered. Somehow, he knew this could happen. He knew that losing him would make you vulnerable. He knew you'd be searching for someone to fill that void. He just wanted you to be careful. I wasn't careful. I was reckless and stupid and naive. You were grieving and human. Dominic exploited that. But you survived, Helena. You and your baby both survived. She placed both hands on her stomach. I don't know if I can keep it. How do I raise the child of the man who tried to kill me? That's a decision only you can make. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. I keep thinking about what you said, that he kept poisoning me even after he knew about the baby. What kind of father does that? What kind of genes am I passing on? The baby has your genes too, and Patrick's, and mine, and my mother's. This child could be strong and kind and nothing like Dominic. Or this child could grow up knowing their father tried to murder their mother. How do you explain that? I don't know, sweetheart. I honestly don't know. Helena was released from the hospital on a Tuesday morning. The doctor said she'd made a remarkable recovery. Her liver function was improving. Her kidney values were normalizing. The baby was still thriving. They called it miraculous. I called it justice. She came home with me to the Greenwich mansion. Her house, the one I'd helped buy, the one she'd shared with Dominic, was now a crime scene. Even after the police finished processing it, Helena said she'd never step foot in it again. Sell it, she told me. Use the money however you want. I don't care. I can't go back there. My mother moved in with us that first week. 3 generations of Ashford women under one roof, healing together. Margaret cooked Portuguese comfort food and told stories about surviving hardships. Helena slept late and cried often and slowly began to process her trauma. I managed the legal proceedings and protected my daughter from the media circus that erupted when Dominic's trial began. The trial was brutal. Dominic's lawyers tried every defense they could think of. Temporary insanity, gambling addiction as a mitigating factor. They even tried to paint me as the villain, claiming I'd manipulated the evidence to frame an innocent man. But the evidence was overwhelming. The toxicology reports, the burner phone, the recorded confession, the witnesses who testified about Dominic's gambling debts and increasingly desperate behavior, Marcus's documentation of everything. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours, guilty on all counts, attempted murder in the first degree, assault, fraud, multiple other charges. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison with no possibility of parole for at least 15. Helena didn't attend the sentencing. She was 7 months pregnant by then, her belly round with the daughter she'd decided to keep after weeks of soul-searching. She stayed home with my mother and me, and we watched the news coverage together. When the sentence was announced, Helena cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. "It's really over," she said. "He can't hurt us anymore." "It's over," I confirmed. But of course, it wasn't completely over. Trauma doesn't end with a verdict. Helena had nightmares for months. She flinched at sudden noises. She questioned every relationship, every friendship, wondering who else might be lying to her. Therapy helped. So did time. And so did the baby. Clara Margaret Ashford was born on a sunny April morning. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, with her mother's blonde hair and her grandmother's eyes. She came into the world screaming, healthy and perfect and untouched by the poison that had nearly killed her in the womb. Helena held her daughter and sobbed. "She's beautiful. She's so beautiful, Mom. Just like her mother. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to teach her to trust her instincts. I'm going to make sure she never ignores red flags the way I did. You're going to be an amazing mother." And she was. Helena threw herself into motherhood with the same intensity she'd once given to Dominic. But this time, it was healthy. This time, she had support. She had me and my mother and a growing network of friends who loved her for herself, not for what she could give them. The house in Greenwich became our sanctuary. 3 generations of women and 1 baby girl, building a life together. Helena eventually went back to work, taking on interior design projects from the home office we created on the 2nd floor. She was talented and word spread. Soon, she had more clients than she could handle. "I don't need his money," she told me one day, watching Clara play on the floor with wooden blocks. "I don't need anyone's money. I can take care of myself and my daughter." "I know you can, but you don't have to do it alone." I know, and I'm grateful for that. For you, Mom, for everything you did to save me. I looked at my daughter, stronger now, wiser, scarred, but surviving, and felt my heart swell. I would do it 1,000 times over. We never talked about Dominic unless necessary. Legal matters, therapy sessions, those were the only times his name came up. Helena had divorced him within a month of his arrest. She'd gone back to using just her maiden name, Ashford. No more Brennan. That name was dead to us. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about the moment I'd overheard that phone call. How close we'd come to a different ending. If I'd been 5 minutes later coming down the stairs. If I'd made more noise and alerted him to my presence. If I hadn't trusted my instincts and acted immediately. Patrick had been right. Trust your instincts. Trust your mother's instincts too. I'd saved my daughter because I'd trusted myself. Because I'd refused to second-guess what I knew to be true. Because when it mattered most, I'd been willing to fight. A year after Clara's birth, Helena and I were having coffee on the back patio while my mother watched the baby inside. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. "I need to tell you something," Helena said suddenly. "What is it?" "I'm grateful for all of it, even the hard parts, because now I know who I can trust. Now I know what real love looks like." She took my hand. It looks like a mother who never gave up on her daughter, even when that daughter didn't listen, even when she chose wrong. "Real love is what you did, Mom. You saved my life." I squeezed her hand, tears in my eyes. "You're my daughter. There was never any question. I know that now. And I'm going to make sure Clara knows it too. She's going to grow up understanding that real love protects, real love acts, real love doesn't poison, it heals." Inside, we could hear Clara laughing at something my mother was doing. That sound, pure joy, innocent and perfect, was better than any revenge, any justice, any courtroom victory. We'd survived, all of us. 3 generations of Ashford women, stronger together than we'd ever been apart. And Dominic Brennan? He was exactly where he belonged, locked away, unable to hurt anyone ever again. That was the ending I'd fought for, the ending I'd earned. And it was enough.